I want to talk about the biggest story that no one's talking about, and that is, it should have already happened by now, but Marion Gruber and Philip Krause, the number one and number two in the vaccine office of the FDA, have resigned by this moment in time. They should be outside of the agency. Yet where are the primetime news coverage having an interview with these two people, wondering why they resigned, what were the circumstances around the resignation? Where is that news coverage? I haven't seen any of it, and I think that's an important oversight. Because as we all know, had this happened under just the last administration, this would have been the biggest news story you can imagine. Two senior FDA officials resign. The statements in the New York Times are that they felt that they were pressured about boosters and that's why they resigned. That pressure came from the White House. Had you had that in the prior administration, it would have been a bombshell story. And yet now, all silence on this issue? Simultaneously, we have had an unprecedented FDA action. The FDA has now authorized boosters for everyone over the age of 18. That includes somebody who got 2 doses of Pfizer, getting the 3rd dose of Pfizer. Okay, they have a randomized control trial there. It shows a reduction in symptomatic SARS-CoV-2. It doesn't show a reduction in hospitalizations or severe disease, and it couldn't because there were no such events in both arms of the study. The study doesn't have the power to detect that. But that also means, and this is of some concern, that somebody who got 2 doses of Moderna are now authorized to get the Moderna booster. 100 Moderna, another 100, and now 50, a half-dose booster. That is a very interesting regulatory decision. To my knowledge, and I've not yet seen any randomized control trial data showing what happens to such a person. Moreover, we do know that the 2 doses of Moderna have a very high rate of vaccine efficacy, so the possibility that the booster can improve that is already smaller than it is for other vaccines, such as the Pfizer vaccine. Walid Jalad, who is an expert in vaccine and drug safety from the University of Pittsburgh, he's been tweeting about this issue constantly, and I gotta say, he's got a lot of good points. He always does. Walid often has good points. What are his points? He says that anytime you think about any drug product and you want to approve or authorize or recommend it, you have to always balance the benefits and the downsides. We do have some sense, I think in the case of Pfizer, what the benefits are. It appears to be a reduction in symptomatic SARS-CoV-2 from getting a booster. We can have some uncertainty around whether or not that will translate into a reduction in hospitalization, a reduction in severe disease. There's some uncertainty there. With Moderna, there's even more uncertainty. What is the probability somebody who gets 2 doses, getting that booster, is going to have a lower rate of hospitalization than someone who just gets the 2 doses? There's an uncertainty there. Walid's point is also the safety point. What does anyone know about 3 doses of Moderna? With Pfizer, we do know from Israel that there is some rate of myocarditis. It appears to be less than dose 2, which is reassuring, but what's not reassuring is it's not 0%. It would be great if it were 0%, but it's not 0%. So there is some rate with Pfizer, those 3. What about Moderna? Well, everything we've learned so far is that Moderna has a higher risk of myocarditis than Pfizer, the primary series, does. And that's why we've seen around the world, places like Germany, Sweden, Denmark, Norway, France, they have dramatically curtailed or limited entirely the use of Moderna for people under the age of 30 or under the age of 30 who happen to also be a man. Canada has limited, or at least Ontario province, has limited Moderna and not allow it for men between the ages of 18 and 24. So other peer nations are using this safety information to say, hey, we have a safer alternative in Pfizer. Let's go with that. We don't need to use Moderna, particularly at these younger ages, particularly in men in whom the myocarditis risk is substantial. Yet this FDA is going in the opposite direction. This FDA is not doing what Germany is doing, saying we advise you not to get Moderna at all if you're under 30. They're saying if you're under 30, you're a 22-year-old man, healthy man, you don't work in healthcare, we're saying you're authorized to get the 3rd booster dose. And presumably that would mean that calculation means it's in your personal health benefit, in your favor, to get that 3rd dose. And Walid Jalad's point, I think, and across all his tweets, is that we simply do not know that to be true. So let me put all this together. What you have is, you have the top 2 officials at the US FDA vaccine drug products who have resigned. Their stated reason for resignation is that they feel they are under pressure from the White House to authorize boosters in a way they feel is ahead of the data. Then, the moment they're out, or at least they should be out by all the public news stories to date, the moment they're out, the FDA takes that extra move of authorizing boosters for all above the age of 18. This appears to be based on low levels of evidence, at least in the case of Moderna. There's real open questions. The Moderna action is truly unprecedented because while the rest of our peer nations are doing everything they can to curtail the use of that in young people, particularly young men, with the known increased risk of myocarditis compared to Pfizer, our nation is doubling down on Moderna, recommending a booster for such a young person. And again, imagine a 22-year-old healthy man. He is right in front of you. He's already gotten 2 doses of Moderna. Do we really know with any confidence that he benefits personally from getting that booster? And that is the role of the regulatory agency. I don't know if people know this. Why do we have regulatory agencies? Why don't we just have a free-for-all in the market where people can just decide what medicines are right for them? They can use their best sense, their bioplausibility. They can intuit this. The reason we have a regulatory agency is to protect the public, to protect average people who may be fearful or anxious or vulnerable from making choices that are not consistent with their best interests. That's why we have the regulatory agency. And here you have a decision that at least should raise some concern. And as far as I can tell, the only person raising this concern is Waleed Jalad on Twitter. And as far as I can tell, the usual chorus of Twitter cheerleaders are going along with this and saying it makes perfect sense, when the reality is we don't have a lot of data in this space. So I think if I were a journalistic news outlet, the first thing I would do is track down these 2 people who left the agency, who said they're leaving it under political pressure, and interview these 2 people and make it a primetime event. This is very important. There is a huge public interest in talking to these 2, and I do not understand why this has not happened to date. I think it's incredibly hypocritical and one-sided. I like to criticize no matter who it is. I don't care what the administration is. I don't care what the view is. I will always sort of doggedly pursue my version of what I think evidence-based medicine means. And that sometimes cuts both ways. I was very critical of the hydroxychloroquine emergency use authorization. And I guess I have a lot of concerns and questions around this EUA for booster, particularly Moderna, particularly men under 30. I think it's difficult to reconcile that with the direction the rest of the world is going. So, you know what to do. You like this video, like, subscribe, comment, leave a message below. Until next time.